Okay, so I've been meaning to do this video for a while now because I've always been angry and frustrated about the cards that I've been dealt because I was training for 3-4 years hard every time, going never missing a session in the gym and always struggling to put on size to get stronger. I've seen old friends and guys at the gym that I've been seeing for a while get a lot stronger than me, people in the internet, and I was just struggling to squat something decent. I was training for 3 years and I couldn't even squat 2 plates. So if that's you or if you feel somewhat related to that situation, this is going to be the video for you because I'm going to share my experience along with 3 tips that are going to help you first of all realize that having bad genetics can be a blessing in disguise, and along with that tips that are going to really help you to boost your numbers, boost your weight, your muscle mass, and your results in the gym and in strength training altogether. Okay, so for a little bit of context, I am 24 years old right now. I have been training since I was 16 was the first time that I really started training somewhat consistently. I would say around 17 was the time where I started to understand what I was doing and stopped training machines and balls and shit like that, and actually started to train squats, deadlifts, bench, free weight stuff. So that's when I really started to count my year of training. So I've been training around 7 years, maybe 8, give or take. From that time, I got to train weightlifting around my 3rd year of training. So I was doing a little bit weightlifting for around a year. At that time, I've been training strength training seriously, without missing a session, I was doing most things right. My technique was pretty much on point. I was resting, sleeping, eating. I'm going to get back to the eating afterwards. That's actually related to one of the tips that I'm going to share with you at the end of the video. So don't stop watching the video because you don't care about my personal life, because it's not about my personal life, it's because I just want to give you context, all right? So I was training for 3 years pretty seriously, and I was still skinny. I was still skinny fat, really. I wasn't actually lean, and I barely squatted like 110, maybe 120 kilos at that point, and that's really not good. Most of my athletes squat more than that within 6 months of training, really. So after 3 years doing that, that's very below average, to be honest. After stopping weightlifting and I kind of got back to general strength training, powerlifting, stuff like that, then I had I would say I was 98% there when it comes to doing most things right, and I was still not able to squat 3 plates, so I was not even able to squat 140 maybe. At around 20 years old, I was weighing maybe 93, 94 kilograms. I am weighing 105 right now, so for context. And it wasn't until I was like 22, 23 where I was able to squat somewhere around 180s, bench somewhere around 130, and deadlift comfortably around 210, 220, something like that. So that was what I was considered for my size and my training experience. Not really. That's what I would consider something like a good baseline, which of course is not the same for everyone. So it basically took me around 7 to 8 years to go from 75 kilograms at 193 centimeters of height, which has been the same since I was 16, 17 till now. So I went from 75 kilograms to 105 right now. I would say at a pretty similar body fat, maybe a little bit more right now, but I would say I would added around 25 kilos of muscle, but that was over the span of 7 to 8 years, and to be honest, most of that gain in lean mass has been in the past 4 or 5 years. It wasn't in the first couple of years, to be honest. So one thing that I forgot to mention that I'm going to fit in right here is that a lot of people think they have bad genetics when in fact they are maybe seeing Instagram models who are maybe using a lot of drugs to get to where they are, or maybe they're not and they have been training for 15 years and they have maybe top genetics and maybe you don't, but maybe you can. I mean, I don't know. So the fact is, if you've been training under 1 or 2 years hard with a program, following something actually right, I mean, it's hard for me to tell you in 5 minutes what is actually right. I mean, I could do a 4-hour video. Thanks, bro. Right, the fact is, if you have not been putting in the work and the hard and right work for a good period of time, you just cannot come to the conclusion that you have bad genetics. I mean, I actually never actually realized it until it was 2 or 3 years into my training and realized that, fuck, I'm really not where I should be. So don't ever put a limit on yourself just because you think you have bad genetics. Just think you have the best genetics. Train like you have the best genetics and train like you're going to be the best. And then if you fall short, it's not that bad. I mean, if you shoot for 150 kilo bench press in your first 2 years of training and you learn short in 120, that's still pretty damn good. So what I'm saying is don't put a limit on yourself. Just train hard, smart, and see what happens. So getting more into the practical tips, I would say my tip number 1 is to fucking eat, right? So I was always concerned with not getting too fat because I wasn't lean to begin with. I was never a lean guy. When I started around 75 kilograms, I was decently lean, but I was not shredded. I didn't have abs. I didn't have any sort of separation or anything. But I was always afraid of eating because of getting fat. And I'm not telling you you have to get fat, but I'm telling you most of your time should be spent on a surplus, especially if you're not fat to begin with. Of course, if you are overweight, eating more is not the solution. But for skinny people, for people who struggle to fill out their frame, you have to be eating, of course, clean food, good amount of protein, but don't over concern yourself with being lean, with having abs. That's pretty much overvalued, and to be honest, you can spend 10, 11 months of the year in a surplus, and then if you want to get lean, you can honestly diet in 1 to 2 months, and you can get rid of most of the fat you build in 10 to 11 months if you've done it right. Where the other way around, building muscle is a long and complicated process, right? So you should be destining more of your time, more of your resources and calories and all of that to getting bigger, because getting leaner, if you do it right, I'm going to get into that because that's the next point. If you do it right, getting lean is decently easier, right? So the tip number 2 is going to be to get a coach or to, if you have some understanding of anatomy and physiology and biomechanics, if you do have somewhat of an understanding, emphasize that. Study, research, read books of Eric Helms and Brad Schoenfeld and the guys that really wrote and have an understanding nowadays of how stuff works, and read studies and check YouTube videos of the people that really put out good stuff like me. But no, to be honest, that was me. I mean, I have a bachelor's in physical education, specialization in strength biomechanics. I mean, I have the base, so to be honest, I didn't struggle that much because I didn't knew. I struggled because of that first point and the third point I want to share right now. The one thing about this point number 2 is that if you are not that kind of person, if you don't know about human physiology, anatomy, biomechanics, stuff like that, get a coach. So if you get an actual good, don't get a crappy coach, because that's just going to drain your money and that's not good. But if you get a good coach, you are going to have good guidance, you are going to progress, and you don't have to worry too much about the stuff. You can just leave that to him or her and just do your thing, right? So that's honestly a good thing that I did, because I only had 2 coaches, but they were 2 good ones, and I had it for a while and really learned from them. So that's really a good tip, because if you don't really know where you're going, all the effort is pretty much in vain. But now that you have that, I'm going to get into the third tip, and that is train hard, right? So of course, if you don't know where you're going, then your efforts are going to be in vain. But if you do know where you're going, train hard, right? I'm not saying go RP 10 and go to failure on every set, every time. That's not what I'm meaning when I'm saying train hard. I am saying don't be chatting with your friends and being outside of your zone before getting into a heavy squat, or don't just take light because it's a bicep curl and nobody really gives a crap. You give a crap because you're watching this video and you are trying to get better. So if that's you have to put 100% effort and concentration into everything you're doing. if you go in your zone, mentalize, maybe music, maybe not music, maybe ammonia, maybe not, that's up to you. But if you have your own ritual and you're focused when you're going into your sets, then the sets are instantly going to feel lighter. You're instantly going to get better. Your cues are going to be clearer, the bar path is going to be better, and you're going to be move shape much easier than if you were not concentrated, right? That's why we warm up, that's why we concentrate, that's why powerlifters, strongmen, weightlifters, we all have rituals before doing a lift because we want to get in the zone. If you paid attention to tip number 2, you know that doing RPE 9s and 10s and going to failure all the time is not the best way to get bigger and stronger. So whether you know that or whether your coach knows that, which might be ideal, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is turn your RPE 9s into 7s, turn your RPE 8s into 6s, because if you are focused, if you are going full effort and full concentration and you have your cues in mind and you're doing the best to actually progress, then you can just make your sets easier, right? That's part of the progress, right? Because after your 6-8 months of beginner stage, lifts aren't just going to get better like that, right? You are going to have to put your mind into it. You are going to just train harder, right? Just train harder than last time, right? And so of course, if you've been training for like 7, 8, 9 years, progress is going to eventually slow down if you're not using drugs. Most of the advice I give here is for people who are not using drugs. So people who are natural, yeah, we are going to have the challenge that after a while, we will just have to find ways, and that's the fun part of it, of just finding ways and strategies and whatnot to just get better, you know? And of course, if you actually do have poor genetics for building muscle, for strength, or maybe for a specific sport, for instance, for me, I'm doing powerlifting right now, like that's my main focus right now. And of course, like I have like very fucking long legs. I mean, I'm not going to be able to be a top squatter in my weight class. I mean, that's just the reality. That doesn't mean that you don't have to pull 100% effort to be the best that you can, right? So despite not being able to be the best or not being able to compete with the top guys, you can actually be much better than you initially think you can be. I mean, when I was fighting to squat 100 kilos, I never actually thought that I was going to be able to squat near 200 kilos. And I'm yet to squat 200, but I'm actually pretty damn close. I mean, I could have got it 3 days before when I competed. I mean, 200 was there. And it's just stuff that if you don't push through and if you don't actually fight for it, you're just never going to get to it. And that's the beauty of strength training, that it is objective. I mean, the same thing happened when the first time I deadlifted 3 plates, I felt like a fucking monster. And right now I see 3 plates and I think like I could do that for like 30 reps deadlifts, you know? And the fact that this is objective and you can actually measure your progress is pretty damn safe, to be honest. So that's basically my message. I'm not one to come here and just throw motivational bullshit at you. I really want to like help you out with facts and with real life experience and with science and stuff that you can actually go and apply right now. It's not all about motivation and yeah, you can achieve your dreams. You have to actually know how to get there, you know, because as I said, you can train hard and do all that crap, but if you don't really know where you're going or you don't really have a clear path, it's much harder to get there, you know. So it's both, right? So you have to know your shit and you have to fucking push it, because no one ever got to where they actually want to be if they didn't actually make an effort, you know. So yeah, that's that. I think that's all I wanted to get off my chest. And if you like the video, please leave a like. It really helps the channel out. And if you have any comments, suit yourself, subscribe, all that crap, and I'll be seeing all of you in the next video. Thanks for watching.